Hi, my name is Jensen. Let's learn some UiPath. Today we'll talk about how to compare two data tables and delete rows that are matching. It's based on a question in the UiPath Forum from Balash, in which he is saying that he tries to remove a data row of 10 columns in XLA. Let me get my Excel sheet up. I created some data with 10 columns, and then the first column is named ID, and then A, B, C, D, E, F, G, I, H, I. And we got 10 rows in it, from 1 to 10, the ID, and then some random data here. So far so good. And then he wants to compare it with the data of XLB with 3 columns. So I created the XLB here as well, 3 columns, and we got an ID. So what we want to do is we want to compare the ID in XLA with the ID in XLB. And if the data exists here in XLB, then we want it to be deleted in XLA. So in XLB, the ID numbers, they are 1, 4, 10, 11, 12. So it's quite clear that we want to delete 1, 4, and 10 here in XLA because those ones are the only matching. And how do we create that? Well, we will head to UiPath, and he says he tried to create 2 data tables. Well, that's a good start. And then he used the activity remove data row. Well, that could be something here, but let's try to solve his problem. So we'll just close the Excel, and we'll minimize the browser, and we go to activities. I think it's easiest if you just do it after me. So we'll drag in the sequence. We could call it main. And then we want to read the Excel sheet. So we're using read range. And I think we'll use just the workbook because I find it more stable. But you can use the Excel in the Excel scope if you want that. So the workbook path, I placed my Excel sheet on the desktop here. I call it book 1. And our sheet name, that was XLA. That's the first sheet. XLA. And just delete this. We want to have the entire sheet read. And then we want to output it to a data table. So Control K, call it DT, you can call it XLA here. And then I think it's more easy just to copy this activity and paste it. Because the only thing we want to change is we want to read the Excel sheet B, and to the output we delete it, and then we press Control K, DT table, DT XLB, like this, and we can maybe we could name these better. So this one will be read range XLA. Naming them will not confuse us. And then we will call this one XLB. And now the trick is here to not think that we want to delete something, because we want to save our data. Let's say we do something wrong. We really want to save the data in sheet A and B. So we create a third sheet. We could call it result or something. And we want to have the filtered XLA there. So what we'll do is that we will first read range from XLA again, because we want the headers. Remember, we don't want to delete them. We just delete the data in the first place. So here we read the XLA. We could call it read range, and then we could call it for filter use, maybe just result, maybe. And then we store it to our data table. We delete this, store it to a data table called DT resolve. And remember, we only want to use the headers. So now we delete everything in the data table, and so go to the data table activities, and then we can just use the clear data table here. That one is clearing all the data in it except the headers. So and here we had the DT result, so we will just clear the DT result like this. And this one, there all the unique data that will go in here. So now we need to find out which data that does match, because those ones we aren't going to add to the new filtered data table. So we'll use a for each row. This won't be a long sequence, it's quite easy. So for each row, and we want to take for each row in Excel A. I think I'll open the Excel sheet again. I think it was great to have the data, then we can talk about it, and just remember to have it closed down before we run the sequence. So I'm opening it now here. So we want to loop through each row here. So let's say that we start here, so row 1, and then we want to go over to B and see if it exists here. And if it does, then we know that there's a match, and we shouldn't add it to our result data table. So for each row in DT XLA, I'll just delete this body. And then, so for each row in DT XLA, then we want to go into XLB, so that will be another for each row, and we'll drag that in here inside the other one. And I think we'll not to be confused, we'll call this for each line in DT XLB, like this. Delete the body again. And in here, then we want to find out if, let me get here, that if the ID match. And so that is for each row and for each line. So we'll drag in an if. So that is, we'll use the .NET row item. And then we'll have the name, that's the ID. We could have using the index, that's just the 0 index, but we'll use the ID to string equals row item, line item. So whenever those two IDs, they are equal to each other, then we know that this is an ID that we want to not write to the result, because that is going to be deleted. So we could create a, I think the easiest thing is just to assign a bool match, like a Boolean, and which is true when there's a match here. So it will be true down here, and then we could let me show you. We will drag in and assign here. So here we will create, Control K, we'll create a Boolean, a bool match. And now we create a Boolean here. I think we'll go to the variables. We'll just have a Boolean. And then we will set it to true, because this one, there's a match. However, we need to think about what we're doing, because we want to have, if we set it to initial false, like let me drag in another sign in the start of the outer loop here, bool match equals false. Then we know that when we come out of, let me close the variables manager again. Then when we come out of this inner loop, then we know that if the bool match is false, then we can safely write the row from Excel sheet A into the result, because then there's no match compared to Excel B. So then we just need, in this sequence, like in the end of the sequence, then we just need an if here. We'll drag that in right here. And that is if bool match equals false, then we want to write it to the current row, we want to write that to our result. And that will just be the add data row. So this one shows that we want to think about the problem and see how we can solve it. This is just like solving it the other way around, but we keep the data, we don't delete anything. That's good, and it's more easy. So let's see what we should write. So the data table that we want to add the row to, that will be the DT result. That will be our resulting, and then up here we will use the row item, and then we will use the row item array that will add the entire row like an array like this. So now we essentially just added everything to the data table. Now we just need to print it out. So we'll use a right range. Drag it in the end. The workbook path, that will be the workbook of our Excel sheet here. Oh, now it's in use. I'll close it down. So we want to write it to another sheet. So that's book 1. Let's delete this. And I think we will call it result. So not sheet 1, because that will make us overwrite something. And then it will be the DT result. This one will work, hopefully, if we have everything right, but I think it's safe to say that we got everything right, so let's run it. UiPath will run in maybe 2 seconds, like this, and let's see if we got everything right. So we'll open book 1 again. My computer is having a hard time now. Maybe it's time to upgrade the hardware, but we can use it. So we can see that we got a result here. And what is the result we want to have? If we have done everything correct, well, that will be, we will have Excel A without 1, 4, and 10, the row 1, 4, and 10 it. And we'll see here that we got everything right, 2, 3, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And we only forgot to add the headers to the result. We can easily do that. So let's close down again. In the right range, we will just click add headers like this, and then we could run it again. And it will override our first result, and then it will write it again with the headers on. Let's just see that before we close. We will head to the result, and now we can see that we got a headers up here, the idea, and we have everything written correctly, like 1, 4, and 10 is not there because that was in Excel B. So Balesh, I hope that solves your question. Otherwise, you can just write, and I'll try to review it. Thank you. Bye bye.